Alright guys, this is a video that I checked out on Jenkins' channel. I love Jenkins' content. Check out a link to this video in the description below. This video is actually 2 years old, but there's so much good historic content on this channel that I'm really enjoying going through it. It's called Which Dota 2 Role Fits Your Personality? So it's time for a little soul searching as we analyze the style that I've been drawn towards most so far and how I play every role. How I play it right or wrong, because I have played a good bit of position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see which one fits me, and then we'll decide a role together that I'm going to be playing in ranked for some time. I'll still have to earn role queue games in order to pick preferentially each time, but this will be the one we try hard a little bit more in as we go down the route of a single path for a bit in order to try and specialize and improve our knowledge there. We've only played a tiny bit of 2. We started playing by 1. We played quite a bit of 3 and 1, Klinks 1 recently, and Tidehunter 3, and Razor 3, though he seems to be more of a 1. We've played loads of support as well in order to play role queue games, and because it's chill and I like warding and dewarding. But let's see what Jenkins had to say about it, and how much of that is still true.
Hello friends, Lays Awake, and I feeling guilty that he pretended to be a girl to get free stuff on RuneScape when he was 13 years old here.
Wait, what?
Bringing you another Dota 2 video on personality traits that you absolutely must have in order to get pro-level MMR for each role in Dota. First and foremost, I want to pose 2 simple questions. What role do you play?
Each role. I've been playing every role, right? At the moment, I suppose I'm playing the most support. If I had to pick one that I'm maybe most successful at now, it was Tidehunter Wraithpact. We just had a new patch and Wraithpact got nerfed, but I'd say position 3 and 5 I've been most prominent at. And I have played 2, but maybe the least. I've played the most 3 and 5 and then 1.
And why do you play that role?
I play 3 because I like to not have the full responsibility on me. I like to be a core that is allowed to farm, but the whole game doesn't rest on me. A little bit more allowed to make mistakes than position 1. And you don't get ganked as much as position 1 or 2. So my pretty bad minimap awareness right now and game awareness doesn't get punished as much. It feels right at the moment. Plus, I like tanky heroes in MOBAs, like how I played in HOTS, Muradin, Anubarak, Diablo, Hogger, and so on, and Sonya, rather than Maiev and let's say Alarak and the more squishy melee assassins. I feel like people that liked Maiev and Illidan, not Illidan, Maiev and Alarak, they would like mid, because those are like mechanically super demanding heroes with great skill expression, a lot of outplay and getting outplayed, and very fragile but high burst. So those feel like centrists. But then Artanis, Hogger, those feel like offlaners. So position 3, I would say, is the one that I probably most played, because they're like tanky initiators. I get to set the pace, but it's not as standing as on the knife's edge as a position 1 can be.
What led you to play?
You don't like being a playmaker, I feel, though. You don't like initiating in Dota as you're not confident people will follow up on it. Also kind of true. So I oscillate between roles, right? Which I don't know that I have fully decided yet.
Playing that role in the first place.
Yet.
The reason that I ask these questions is because I honestly believe that the vast majority of Dota players
are fat babies that have a freaky doll-like eyes.
Are playing their role for totally...
GG no words. Honestly, the main reason I play support is because when I play core, I feel GG no ward. But when I play support and people say GG no ward, I'm thinking, we had 3 wards, I determined where we're going to fight, and we decided not to defend the area. We put 3 wards here, and then we just left, and we went to the opposite side of the map. Like, why aren't we fighting in our wards? And then you see one enemy show up under observer ward, like a lion or a dazzle, and he's just putting a sentry and clearing it, sentry and clearing, and none of us are near, so we're not protecting the wards. But you're Lisbro.
Arbitrary, if not random reasons. Why does it matter? If your actual real-life personality does not mesh with the personality type required for the role that you play, you absolutely will cap out at an MMR that is far below your potential. Why is this the case? Well, this I could and probably will eventually make an entire video justifying, but the TLDR is basically that I believe, even outside of Dota, there's very little point in trying to be something that you're not. Dota 2 is a disgustingly versatile game with so many heroes, so many builds, and so many playstyles that are all totally viable. It honestly might be the most versatile game. In most other games, people will theory craft the hell out of it until it gets boring, and everybody's basically rinse and repeating the same shit. And that's honestly what's happening with Aghanim's Labyrinth right now.
The triple centaur.
Now, that does not happen in Dota 2. That is the beauty of this game. So not only is it possible to find the perfect playstyle for your personality, you eventually won't be able to compete with the people that do develop their own unique playstyle. And this is for two reasons. Reason number one, they'll set the meta while you follow it, always lagging just behind at very best. Reason number two, they will be playing on lightning-fast instincts, whereas you will have to think about your every move consciously.
That actually reminds me of two things. One, I was a piano player before, maybe not as good as Dendy. He had his mother piano teacher too, right? But I played piano for 5-6 years, and one time I was playing a particularly difficult track that I had memorized without the paper in front of me, and I was like, how am I actually doing this? It was like, it was on point, it was in tune, I was hitting the right keys, and I started thinking, how am I doing this? Now you become aware, you start to doubt, boom, made a mistake. But when you're not thinking about it, no mistake. And the second thing I'm thinking about is the book that I read, The Chimp Paradox. The Chimp Paradox is a psychology, self-help, or learning book that tries to simplify, in particular, sports performance and how you can train good habits. Essentially, the brain is more complex than we understand, but you can create a model that tries to explain how the brain works a bit. It will use models that aren't scientifically true, but they can be used to help understand it. So the Chimp Paradox alleges there's 3 types of brain in all of us. The human brain, which thinks at a speed of 1. The chimp brain that thinks of a speed at 5 times as fast as a human. And the computer brain...
Cool story, Bob.
Thanks. The computer brain that thinks at a speed of 20 times as fast as a human. If you absent-mindedly put your hand on the stove and it's still hot, like an electric stove or whatever, you will pull it back so fast, if your brain and body is working correctly, on pure instinct, on pure reactivity that you cannot even personally choose. It's so fast, it's at the speed of times 20. This kind of reflex you cannot control. It's the computer, it's the underlying code of your brain, and it is very helpful. Otherwise, you would pull back your hand by the time you take serious burn damage already. The chimp brain is the emotional part of your brain. When you emotionally react to things, that is faster than logic, which is why sometimes when you are having an argument with someone, you might emotionally react and say, mind your own business, before you actually think what it means to be a civilized human. And you think, I find that hurtful, you say. How about doing it this way? Or could you not have? Yeah. So the emotional reaction can be very fast. And the human reaction is this. So the chimp paradox is like, it's living in the jungle, the chimp brain, it's living in the jungle. Someone attacks you, you attack back. Someone attacks you, you flee, right? Reactivity, and it's fast. You react faster with it. Then there's the human brain. The human brain is most suitable for complex decisions that require reflection. It doesn't think very fast, but it is the most dispassionate, the least emotional, the least instinctive and automatic. For instance, if you're trying to make a decision between, do I want to live close to work and have short work-home travel, but I live in a smaller apartment of 100 square meters? Or do I want to live further from work? I'll have a 50-minute travel time to work, but I can live in 200 square meters for the same price. That's not something that you should let the chimp decide, because emotionally you may not make the right choice. You have to think about how it's going to be in the long term, which one you prefer, what gives you the better balance of and the better quality of life, and so on. Nor is it something a computer decides, your computer brain. So there are things you should handle with your human brain. Some things will be handled by the chimp. And you can only manage your chimp. You can't control it because it is your inner temperament. And then there's the computer. So the goal for any competitor, for any athlete or professional gamer, is to try and commit deeply ingrained habits that are productive. Right? The pulling the hand away from the fire is something that we all learn from birth. But you can teach yourself extra habits by choosing, as a human brain, right? By choosing skills and techniques that you think will help you in the long run, and then repeating them until they go to the autopilot, which would be the machine. And so that's kind of the concept of the chimp paradox and how it can help you to become a better competitor. So if you're just training, if you're just playing Dota or doing anything that you want to get better at, you will be quite reactive and you will fall into certain habits that fit your personality and your character and your thinking and so on. And all of those will become habits, some good habits, some bad. Therefore, it is useful to be conscientious about what you do, about trying to set real targets and goals for yourself and learn habits that will help you in the long run so that you don't train bad habits lest they become ingrained in the long term. Yeah.
May wisdom and joy of playing the role guide you in the making of this choice. Good luck.
Yeah. Hope so too, Masayume. Thank you.
You cannot compete with that unless you are also developing your own unique playstyle as well, giving you the exact same advantages over them. So, with that being said, let's take a look at the most important personality traits for each role in Dota 2. First, let's talk about the carry position.
Position 1.
In my opinion, the most important personality trait for a carry player is that you are calculated. You might be thinking, but Jenkins, all carry players do is watch One Punch Man on Netflix on their second monitor while AFK hitting neutral creeps, right? Surely these players are greedy. I disagree. Sure, carry players are spoon-fed babies that cry like small infants whenever their support leaves the lane to pull, but with the entire game being handed to them on a silver platter, comes a cost. That cost is responsibility. Carry players have the burden of being the game's insurance policy. In a Dota game, there's 10 to 15 teamfights on average? In a reasonably difficult game, as a carry player, you have to pick 1 or 2 of these fights that you know when you show up to it, you're going to win that fight with the amount of farm that you have. If you show up to that fight and you die, well, you usually lose. If you show up to that fight and you kill the enemies, well then you're probably still in the game and you might win. Oh, and also, if you die a couple of times while farming before that team fight, then you probably only have 1 fight to choose from instead of 2.
Or you're dead already. So if I were to pick this role, I would need to study the hero that I play and determine when I am ahead, when I am even, when I am behind. What is my time to fight? Who do I target? Right? Who are my priority targets in any given draft? What is my average best item timing? Is it the first item, the second? Is it the Falcon Blade? Is it the Power Treads? Is it the Maelstrom? Should I fight right after getting Radiance on Alchemist? Or should I get Radiance and then BKB? Or Radiance, BKB, Dagger? What is my preferred time? And what valid reasons are there to adapt, to fight earlier or later? And can I take skirmishes? Or do skirmishes slow me down? Or do they hold too much risk? Not all of it can be prepared. A lot of it is in the moment knowledge. But preparation can help to exclude certain very low likelihood improvement situations. Like it almost never goes well if I start fighting with Clinks right off the bat after Falcon Sword, after Falcon Blade, but before, let's say, Maelstrom. Like the moment you get Maelstrom on Clinks, should you ever fight? Or should you use it as a farm booster because you're about to experience great farm growth thanks to Maelstrom? My opinion is with Clinks and Maelstrom, the moment you get it, yes, you are more potent in fight, but it is a farm accelerator, therefore shouldn't fight yet. I would normally like to fight the moment I get Gleipnir. Right? Maelstrom is like Midas more than it is like Daedalus. You also experience great growth? Nice, Nathanimus. I'm glad about that here on my stream, that you experienced that. So you would only fight if mid support could set you up real easy peasy, right? Yeah.
So, carry players have an immense burden on their shoulders, and therefore have to be incredibly calculated. Next, let's talk about mid laners. When I think of the mid lane, I imagine players like CCNC, Sumail, and Top.
That's Quinn? He looks so different here.
Thompson. These are some of the world's most mechanically skilled players.
Oh, CCNC is someone else? He's joking? He's trolling? Okay.
Playing the single most mechanically demanding role in the game. In the mid lane, first you're thrown into a tiny little lane against only one other guy who is going to try their absolute hardest to outplay you and deny every single creep in front of your face. Then you are expected to win both of the side lanes while also not losing your tower, and also you have to scale and carry the game while still being incredibly active in fights. Moreover, most mid heroes are experience dependent, and they also happen to have an incredibly high skill cap. And I say happen to have a high skill cap, but this is most likely the result of Valve just being pretty damn good at balancing these heroes that can both scale and fight by making them difficult to play. So, clearly it's a mechanically difficult role, and I think most people agree with that, but I propose that in order to thrive in this role, you have to be extremely confident, to the point where I'm willing to just call it cocky. The reason that I think being cocky is the most important personality trait for a mid laner is because cocky players absolutely revel in the opportunity to outplay people. They will go for the high risk, high reward plays all the time because it's in their nature. And that is what the mid lane is all about. If I have a choice, I want my mid laner to live for these outskill moments because I know that, since their role gets so much XP and farm, the slightest outplay can make them pop off and basically 1v9 the game. Next, let's talk about the most manly, objectively best role in Dota 2, the offlane. Historically in Dota, there was a battle between two...
How cocky am I? I used to be very cocky. What are you doing? I was looking up pictures. I used to be very cocky, but it's after I got good at Warcraft 3. I'm more of like a 2 out of 10 on the cocky scale of Dota at this time. Which kind of makes sense. Like, I'm new. I'm not familiar with all the interactions yet. Yeah. In 2003, 4, 5, I was very cocky. I still remember I once came to a tournament, beginning of 2004. I was 17 and a half years old. I got to a tournament, CyberX Games in Las Vegas. First time I was ever there. Almost an adult, still in high school. And I was pretty confident. Most of the players that were there from Europe, I had beaten so many times on ladder. So it was pretty obvious to me that I would beat them again. So I didn't think it should be sensitive to discuss that fact with them. So I had these really nice games against Nightmare, Swedish undead player. And I usually won. I had a cool strat, Farseer TC, War Stomp, Shaman, Lightning Shield. He liked to spam ghouls, so I have War Stomp and Lightning Shield. So we were about to play, and I liked him. He was friendly. I remember seeing some interviews and some pictures. Like, I liked him. I thought he was friendly. So I made friendly conversation with him. Very authentic. What you see is what you get. Say what I think. So I was like, you know that I'm going to beat you, right? And I didn't think that was going to be offensive or anything. But I heard later that he really minded my saying that. Which, like, why? Like, I'm just saying the truth. And I did, proving that I was right and not being a dick or anything about it. But then many years later, I thought, man, I would have hated that version of myself now. That's not very friendly or sensitive. It's just,
Right.
I'm just
Back
being
to Dota
honest.
2.
No, you're being an asshole. Yeah. And I ended up winning the tournament. But that attitude is actually really helpful when you're playing mid.
Different styles of offlaners. First, you had your dirty
You're too old for a mid Dota player. I mean, fuck you. But also, yeah, you're right.
jobs type of offlaner. You know, the guy that went into the offlane, didn't feed, and just did a good job regardless of whatever scraps he was given in the lane. Then you had the crazy psychopaths that would feed relentlessly, but also make a metric dog shit ton of space in the process. The latter group ended up winning the battle, and to this day, that is how the offlane is played. Because of this, the most important personality trait for an offlane player is that you are mischievous. This role is all about taking your net worth and making the game easier to play.
So buying time, right? Buying time, trolling the opponent, distracting them, initiating and finishing the fight and winning it, initiating and losing the fight and running, initiating and dying, but still buying space. And then you satisfiedly look at your position 1, top left, solo farming, the drow, and you're like, this is a good thing. And so in a sense, that's like what 4 and 5 supposedly are to do, but you're like the initiator and they follow. So I like that a lot. I do think that sounds a lot like me. And it's what I would do on Hogger in HOTS and on Artanis. Distracted, space created.
For your other heroes, especially your other two cores. See, the weird thing about
You can't resist farming though. Yeah, and that's the big point against it. Like when I'm Razor, but it's also like how I've been coached by S4 and by Draskil. Both of them taught me how to farm on Razor. And maybe that's the part I remember the most. But I didn't keep to heart as much to be the vanguard that charges in, the spearhead of our operation, initiate fights, find their one, and kill him, kill that PA in the jungle. I'm Razor, let's go fight. Because when I played Razor recently, people were like, you're playing way too passive. You're like perm farming, you're never with team, you're communicating like shit, you're not reading your allies' communication. And we just uploaded a YouTube video on Razor. And that's what everyone in the comments was like, you're way too passive. And so that also made me think and look up this video. You do farm as offlane. You do. Of course you farm. But you combine it with smart timing of fights.
offlane is that it's typically considered a core role. And
I really liked farming. That's why I kept doing it. But yeah, you have to like switch it up with fighting.
in the realm of farm priority, that's not wrong. But when it comes to what your job actually is in the game, by any sane person's definition, you're actually a support. You build auras to protect your team from enemies, you run in and initiate team fights, you tank spells for your team, you tank ganks for your team, you distract the enemy team so that your boys can farm, but you do all of these things with scaling net worth as the game progresses.
This sounds a lot like how I played Tidehunter at my best. When I played Tidehunter at my best, reaching 3k MMR, I would start in the offlane. I would absolutely dumpster on position 1, making them miss last hits, spending resources. We would take down the tower, and then I would start occupying their jungle, pressuring tier 2 tower, taking this hill jungle, and then eventually positioning mid or in our jungle and saying it's a no-go zone. And then maybe go top, harass their position 1 again, or just constantly show myself in their vision here. That worked out well. But when I had a bad early game with Tide, I just became a feeder. I didn't know how to create space anymore when I had a bad early. If their position 1 beat me in lane, I didn't know where to go. So there were definitely big gaps in how to play from behind. When I played Razor recently, I started off aggressive. For the first 10, 15, 20 minutes, I made everyone TP all over the map. Drow met me. I static link. They leave. Would have been helpful to have a support with me that has a stun, I was thinking. Which means like I should pick Razor when I have a support with a stun. Because apparently people TP out a lot when you're about to kill them. You're fast as Razor. You can move and shoot at the same time because of static link. And you're slowing them. And maybe I have a good early game and then they cannot stand against me. So I would need a support with a stun would be nice. In general, stuns are useful, right? And Razor has none. So that was good for like 10, 15, 20 minutes. And then the final half hour, I only farmed. I didn't know how to make space and fight anymore. And also because I probably was not thinking as a team.
So realistically,
you need Yules. Yeah, a lot of people in the YouTube comments said that if I had Yules, I would be able to interrupt their TP. That makes sense. Yeah, I was thinking, should I get Skull Basher on Razor? Just get Yules to interrupt it. Yeah, not too bad.
The sky's the limit when it comes to how much space you can make. For this reason, people who naturally enjoy finding creative ways to essentially troll the enemy team will do extremely well in this role. For this reason, being mischievous is a requirement if you want to succeed. Finally, let's talk about the support positions, starting with the 4 position. This role is typically associated with roaming in the early game and in the mid to late game, setting up team fights, ganks, and generally comboing with your team to kill people.
Yeah, I feel like I did this best with Hoodwink when I was playing her. I only played her a handful of times, maybe 5 to 7 times. And my skill with her hasn't kept up as I rose the ranks, because I mostly played her around 1000 MMR. But I really did take to her quite quickly. Would need a refresher now, of course. And she really had a kit that made me do that, to rotate, to get ganks and kills. And for some, the kit just feels intuitive and instinctive, so I could see that being a thing.
On this role, at any point in the game, it's really important to know who you can kill and who you need with you to actually kill the people that...
So you need game knowledge to know where there's a weakness and where your own team's strength lies.
...that you want to murder. But the problem with Dota is that at a high level, it is realistically far too fast-paced to have any sort of meaningful conversation with your teammates about kill potential, or to manually calculate if you can kill somebody. The moments are just too small. They pass very quickly. For this reason, good 4-position players have the best understanding of the most amount of heroes in the game when compared with any of the other roles in Dota. You need to be able to look at the enemy mid laner, know what camp they're about to go farm, and know that your nearby teammates are ready and able to kill said target if you initiate on them immediately. That, my friends, is a whole lot of knowing other people's intentions without any form of communication. And for this reason, it's my opinion that good position 4 players have a high level of empathy as their most...
Any empathetic people here? Feels strong, man. I'm +4 and empathetic. I think sometimes it's not true what he says. Yeah, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. If this is the qualifier, I won't say I have no empathy. But I won't say it's my strongest suit either.
Most important personality trait. Maybe empathy is the wrong word, but you can kind of see what I'm getting at here. If you are able to empathize with the enemies and know their likely future actions, you can set up ganks on them. The exact same thing can be said for playing with and around your team across the map.
Though I think so far, empathetic feels like the worst nomer so far in his categorization of each role. Based on what he's saying, not even inserting my own opinion yet, but just based on what he's saying, I wouldn't be surprised if he had come up with the term knowledge. You need the vastest array of game knowledge and hero knowledge. So a nerd, basically, a study of the game, experienced and thinking a lot, a thinker in that sense. But yeah, a predictor, a planner, something like that. But let's just say game knowledge.
As for the 5 position, my gut instinct, and I'm sure a lot of other people's gut instinct, is that the most important personality trait is that they are sacrificial.
Or you could say, you know what? You know the poker term? You've got like optimal way of play and then you've got exploitative. Optimal is the fastest way to farm, the fastest way to kill tower, the way your hero should be played. And then exploitative is whenever you deviate from a supposed universally determined optimal computerized way to play it. Exploitative is where you're aware of people's habits and then you exploit it. You do things that might be on paper not good. Like the optimal way to play is to put an observer ward on a high ground, period. And the exploitative way to play is to know that people play high ground wards and therefore you clear those wards. The proactive exploitative ward placement would be to put observer wards in less easy to find areas. It's not as optimal, but it is exploiting the fact that the enemy might be checking standard locations. So an observer ward here might be optimal, or here, and exploitative would be to go 10 paces to the left where it doesn't get found by a sentry. So maybe position 4 would be best described as knowledgeable or exploitative.
As for the 5 position, my
Understanding what people do and then countering it.
gut instinct, and I'm sure a lot of other people's gut instinct, is that the most important personality trait is that they are sacrificial. But then
Yeah, we hear that a lot, right? Support position 5, sacrificial.
Premium content since 2015.
Thanks, man.
started thinking about it a bit more deeply. Does a 5 position really need to be sacrificial? Well, yeah, of course, to some degree, but I definitely don't think it's the most important personality trait. It's just the bare minimum. It's a requirement. But just because you run in and feed to place wards for 40 minutes straight doesn't make you a good position 5 if your wards are total crap and they just get dewarded. In fact, that's probably the biggest problem for a lot of position 5s, is that they're hard locked into this mindset that as long as they're sacrificing, they're playing well. But for a lot of these players, they're nothing but a totally unnecessary martyr. You know those people in horror movies that run in and die to the killer
Grubby is
just
the best.
before their family gets saved, but they did it to protect their family, and like everybody's happy, but it just doesn't feel like it was totally necessary, and a character is dead now, and you're like, what the hell, why did this happen? That is bad position 5s in pubs. If you take a look at the world's top position 5s, a far more common thread than being sacrificial is that they are strategic. Good position 5s are focused on the entire game plan.
I would say that's probably true for Papi, no? I'd say he's strategic, from what I've seen. Basically nerds. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of true for every role, but position 5 is constantly thinking of how they can shape the game. A position 1 is not constantly thinking how they shape the game. They don't get to shape the game yet. Position 5 is constantly thinking about that. Yeah, position 1, if you're super efficient and your team is literally distracting enemy beyond any possibility of them harassing you, you're just following optimal patterns. It's like one of those racing games when you're position 1. It's one of those racing games where you just have to do the quickest lap. And yes, your opponent is racing too, but there's no collision. Your car cannot, and there's no bananas. It's not like Mario Party, right? No oil slick, no weapons, no power-ups. You're just racing. And because there's no collision, it's actually not even a multiplayer game. I've seen racing games like that be played at the same tournament that Warcraft 3 tournaments were played at. And I'm like, when do you start bumping the opponent? They're like, there's no collision. I'm like, holy shit. They are playing a single-player game. They are both going on a track, They're throwing a spear. Whoever throws the furthest wins. You don't even throw the spear into each other's body, right? Like, you're not messing with each other. The only multiplayer aspect of it is you're comparing your high score and mental pressure, maybe, because you are simultaneously racing, even though you might as well ignore where the other car is. You are simultaneously racing, so there's some mental pressure. Like, oh my God, he's in front of me right now. Maybe you start making mistakes. But if you were able to ignore where the other car is, it literally doesn't matter where he is. You're just trying to do the fastest possible race. And if your 4 allies are creating space and you are where you're allowed to be on the map, position 1 for a small part of the game is playing a racing game. But the position 5 is always thinking. He's always worrying about his babies. He's worrying about the opponent, about allies, creating vision, determining where to fight, support item, and so on. So it kind of makes sense.
Where and when to ward, where and when to deward, where and when to smoke, where and when on the map they should stand to intercept ganks, and a whole lot more. Basically, in order to properly play Position 5, you have to know a lot about the enemy team's strategy and the strategy that you want to execute. Do they have a Medusa? Well, then you need to ward and smoke to their triangle frequently because that's exactly where the enemy team is going to play. Do they have a bounty hunter? Well, you need to place wards and sentries at the entrance of your jungle and set up ganks on him so you can kill him while he's scouting. In other words, sacrifice is important for Position 5, but exclusively if you are doing it for a strategic reason. And so that, in my opinion, is why being a strategic-minded person is the most important personality trait.
I am strategic-minded, I think. I think so. Of course, the more knowledgeable you are, the more you can unleash strategy. It's pretty hard to be strategic the first time you ever play Dota 2. So 5 maybe is an option. Would anyone admit they're not strategic, though?
For a Position 5. So, where does
Everyone thinks they are strategic, but most people are idiots. Said authoritarian barbarian. Nickname checks out. Nickname checks out.
leave us? My genuine advice to you is if you care about hitting your Apex MMR in Dota, you should really assess whether the role you are playing is the right one for you. Do you like farming, but you play offlane? Maybe you should try carry. Do you like trolling people, but you play mid? Maybe you should give offlane a try. That's basically it. If you assess that you are playing the right role, then all the power to you either way, and good luck with the grind.
We need you to be carry, Grub. Do not listen to this jerking guy.
Anyway, that's it for this video. Please make sure to like, comment, and...
It's Jenkins, but I don't know about that second part that you just mentioned. Most people do.
subscribe so I can be boosted in the YouTube algorithm and afford to pay the hobos to stop sending me death threats. As always, I genuinely appreciate you existing, and I hope to see you in another video.
Okay. Let's like this. And subscribe. Subscribe. Okay, so, having seen this, what do you think? What do you think? I'm thinking 1, 3, or 5 for me. We'll do a poll, but I'm not going to definitively follow it. I just want to get information. Poll started. We will pretend democracy, but we will enact Grubocracy. I have narrowed it down in my head to 2 positions. I'm on the fence about it. The 2 winning positions are the same ones that were on my mind. 3 and 1. 3 wins. I feel like if you play 3, you end up being 1 instead. Yeah, so here's the thing. I feel like 3 describes me best in a way. And it describes my Heroes of the Storm MOBA play the best. Position 3. But I play some 3s as 1, which is my instinct. Farming a lot. So should I do 1 instead? Clinks is not a 3, unfortunately. I'm willing to take a break on Clinks. I've even found it hard to say. Playing 3 as 1 sometimes is new meta. Jenkins made this video before AMF. Yeah, you farm because there are some moments that you don't know what else to do at points. Once you learn more, you'll know what to do. Yeah, true too. Skeleton addict, yeah. It works as a greedy 3 because people don't know how to properly punish greed at low MMR. You should do 3 and 5. Well, I'll definitely play support either way because it's part of needing to earn role queue games. You farm a lot because you don't have game knowledge. You don't know what to do, so you farm. True. I feel like 1 fits me the best in a way. But in other ways, 3. It's really tough. I wonder if I should do a coin flip. Nothing is boring to watch. I see some people say that. That's obviously not true. One of the biggest streamers, Gorp, he's 1. Obviously, people don't think it's boring to watch. Maybe they watch for the mold and for his personality. I think both are great. And he plays high level. Either way, when you watch me, you will see learning. You will see a learning player.
We run a one-man, one-vote system here. Grubby is the man and he has the vote.
You can't put farming as black and white. Yeah. Of course, it's about when you're strong and when you should go fight. No coin flip. Go through some pros and cons, please. Yeah, okay. Pros and cons. So, position 1. How many fights do you join? In this video, Jenkins said 1 or 2.
Can't stop, won't stop less than 3.
Yo,
Grubby.
thanks Tekang, Low Conf, Snowbound Rid, Skyzors, Curtain Falls, Henrique Velasco. It depends on your hero, yeah. Position 1 joins fights when they are sure to win. We're talking like 99% plus certainty. Heavily punished.
Happy to see you back.
For any
Hope
death
you're feeling refreshed.
or misjudgment. Ah, so much better, Starmite. Thanks, man. Benefits from optimized habits and farming patterns, map awareness, good judgment, farm speed and stuff. Arteezy farming pattern, bat chest. 1 can't do anything when lanes go south. I presume better ones can do more, but yeah, sometimes it can feel a bit helpless. When I was doing 1 the best, having a decent lane and good farm, I became a good shot caller. When I was Clinks, I became a lot more vocal and do shot calls. But only when I was confident and it was going well and so on. There's not much point shot calling when you're not ready to fight. It's micro heavy importance for last hit. Learning to manage coming from behind and having very hard lanes. Last hit plus creep aggro are very important skills to have. Good awareness of itemization, of course, and countering, and how you counter enemy +1. You're probably last pick, usually last pick, so need to have flexible options. And ironclad mindset for anti-tilt. because it can feel so bad when you lose a lot of stacks, or you die, or you join the wrong fight, or your support sucks and didn't ward. Yeah, draft understanding and playing it safe, right? Then for position 3, all but first point also applies to post 3. I don't think so. I don't think you're as heavily punished for any death. You could die as a 3, kill 2 enemy support, and it could be fine. Maybe. But as a 1, you would not want to die for anyone. Post 3, bullies, trolls, draws attention, initiates, or pushes. Pushing tower like Broodmother and Beastmaster is essentially a form of initiating. Initiates. Right? Initiation can be attacking an enemy player, and a push is attacking an enemy tower. Either one needs a response. An aspect of 1 that I feel gets forgotten is that while you are farming, you have so much time for strategy and map awareness while you're jungle, because you should be watching that map and trying to understand if you're about to get ganked. You can actually use that time to help your team out by being their eyes, instead of what often happens, which is going brain dead and living in their own bubble. Yeah. If you become really good at like doing the jungle and the lanes, yeah, you have a lot of travel time between lane and jungle, and if you're not needing to like pay hawk-like attention to hitting that mud golem, then like, yeah, you can look at the map. Pressure enemy position 1. Work in tandem with supports to do to eat up terrain, gank, push, adaptable, play from behind or ahead, change items based on this path. Wasn't this supposed to be pros and cons? Yeah, cons is like hard to farm if no space, support no warding, right? Hard to be impactful if dieded. Long queue time. Team reliant early on. Farms the dangerous areas, good point. Leaving safer areas for boss 1. Very responsibility, very stress. So it looks like the poll result isn't that bad. You guys voted 3. 3 is Artanis Hager. I play Artanis Hager. Let's focus on 3.